We have multiple stories to get into on today's episode of the Rams Digest. We're going to talk about the Rams targeting weapons for Matthew Stafford and the offense in the draft. We'll talk about a couple names. We'll look into the mock draft details tomorrow, but we'll bring up the couple names that we're hearing right now. We're also going to talk about what Kelly Stafford had to say about Matthew Stafford staying in LA. We know she was maybe upset, possibly, hoping they can, well, not hoping, but possibly moving on from the Rams. But we'll talk about what she said about him staying with the Rams. We're also going to discuss a defensive player who's pretty upset. We'll talk about all that and more on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, press that subscribe button. As 68.1% of you guys are watching the videos, but you're still not subscribed to the channel. So do me a favor, press that subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. First things first, the first story here, weapons in the draft. We'll talk about a mock draft tomorrow, probably talking about some offensive weapons the Rams can target. But there are a couple names that we're hearing right now, or some reporters are just saying that it would be interesting for the Rams to target. And I do think the Rams we're talking about the needs and maybe non-needs last episode, but the Rams do kind of need to look at what do they need in the draft. And one of those things is going to be, if you trade Cooper Kupp, you kind of need another weapon alongside Puka Nacua. So, as far as I know, every report that I've seen so far is still saying the Rams are interested in trading Cooper Kupp. He's still on the trade block. So at this point in time, if that's the route they're going to take, then they're going to need to target a weapon in the draft pretty early, probably first, maybe second round, if we're talking about replacing a guy like Cooper Kupp. So we'll have to see about that. But right now, they're pulling up one name that is being talked about is Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. He is a sturdy, reliable receiver with good hands and quick lateral movements as both a route runner and ball carrier. Don't let the hype around his past and current Buckeyes teammates fool you. Egbuka's tape looks the part of a future NFL starting wide receiver. So this is coming from Jacob Infante of Pro Football Network. Interesting route the Rams could take here. Again, I think at this point, end of the first round, you do have to kind of taper your expectations, right? Last time I've seen a player at the end of the first round kind of absolutely become a stud. We're talking about Justin Jefferson, but overall, you're not going to expect a Justin Jefferson at the end of the first round. The Rams are going to have to be patient with whoever they take, which is the good thing is you're not looking for a guy to be your number one receiver right out of the draft. We're looking for a guy to be the number two receiver. So hopefully a player like this could actually be a good complementary piece next to Puka Nacua. That would be the hope, that'd be the goal and the dream. But I also want to make sure we are not immediately expecting this guy to be the next Cooper Kupp. Just got to emphasize that now because I already know a lot of people are expecting, if the Rams are going to move on from Cooper Kupp, you need a good replacement. We got to be patient with these guys in the draft, especially we're talking end of the first round. You can't expect them to come out and immediately be incredible, but we'll have to wait and see if this is the route the Rams take. Another name I've seen some Rams fans talking about on Twitter, this is coming from Coach Latz. He says, you're a Los Angeles Ram to Matthew Golden, who ran a 4.3 unofficial time, but 4.3, I think actually the official time was 4.29 on his 40-yard dash. So pretty fast, if you ask me. And I wouldn't mind a speedy receiver alongside Puka Nacua. I think that'd be a nice deep threat for the Rams. He's a decent route runner. Another interesting name. We'll break down some interesting names in the first round next episode as we'll talk about a mock draft. But some couple names to kind of look out for. And I think this might be an ideal route for the Rams to take, to look at a weapon early in the draft, especially if one that you like falls in your lap early in the first round. But you don't have to find a receiver in the first round, right? Remember, Puka Nacua was a 5th round pick. So, just kind of interesting to start looking at this route, looking at where the Rams can take. Like I said, I talk about non-needs, and I think the Rams do have a lot of pieces that they don't really need to look at in the draft. Interior offensive line, the edge rushers, those are all solid positions for you. So there are a lot of opportunities for you to draft maybe some offensive weapons, future cornerback for you, linebackers, all that good stuff in the draft this year. Moving on from that, we'll talk about the off season in general. I kind of want to lump all these next couple stories all together. Some off-season talk. What has been going on? Obviously, Matthew Stafford signing with the Rams or staying with the Rams. That's obviously a positive for a lot of Rams fans. And we do want to get the perspective of, if this is a story here, is Kelly Stafford, as she kind of made some noise. And not every Rams fan was super excited or ecstatic about hearing her on her podcast talk about them maybe leaving Los Angeles. But here's Kelly Stafford posting this on Instagram saying no place like home. So obviously she seems to be happy that Matthew Stafford is staying in Los Angeles. And I get it. A lot of people don't really like that, Kelly Stafford had such a strong voice in this offseason. Definitely a lot of people thought maybe she was the one kind of stirring the rumors up a little bit about him possibly leaving the Rams. Ultimately, I think the Rams and Stafford, that whole situation was going to happen regardless. Yes, her podcast did kind of add some fuel to the fire, but overall, I think it's fine. She didn't really say anything too crazy, and overall, she wanted to stay in LA. She said she wanted to stay in LA, but they were open to moving on if that was what the Rams were going to do, and they were ultimately open. Matthew Stafford was ultimately open into looking and talking with other teams, talking with the Raiders, talking with the Giants, right? And so that was a real thing that happened. So let's not throw all this hate and shade at Kelly Stafford. She posed, hey, they're happy to be here. They're happy to be home. It's just the world of social media that we have to kind of deal with now. That, hey, everyone could voice their opinion, and let her voice her opinion. Just because she's Stafford's wife doesn't mean she doesn't have an opinion on the matter of his career. So overall, though, it's good. She's happy. She's happy to be here. They're happy to be home and stay home. So it's pretty awesome to see. Moving on from that, here is some issues brewing on the defensive side of the ball. Los Angeles Rams defender voices frustration with role ahead of free agency. Now, who are we talking about? We'll discuss the name in a second, but it is kind of one of those interesting factors, right? We've been talking about the Rams, their defense, how successful they have been on defense, but they do need to address one position. And I've been talking about this position kind of heavily because I want to make sure we note it, right? Yes, the defensive line is a great defensive line that's been putting pressure on the quarterback, but the interior defensive line, we have Kobe Turner who can rush the passer and stop the run a little bit, but you kind of need a bigger body, I think, to stuff the run a little bit more than the Rams have been able to do these last couple of seasons, or especially last season, right? We're talking about, again, the 200-yard games from Saquon Barkley, which is not really a fair judgment on the entire defense as a whole, but overall, the run defense was not great consistently last year, right? And so defensive tackle, interior defensive tackle was one of those positions I was looking at into upgrading because of a guy like this who maybe hasn't really been playing super well, in my opinion, in terms of stuff in the run or doing what he's supposed to be doing, in terms of stuff in the run, helping stuff in the run. Here's the Los Angeles Rams tweeting, he's been a stout run defender plus a big piece on our D-line. Free agent spotlight, Bobby Brown III. So Los Angeles Rams, they're tweeting, they're shouting out Bobby Brown III, just kind of giving him a spotlight here. And then you look at his tweet, and he responded to the tweet saying, as much as I like this post, I don't. So he doesn't like the post. As much as I like this post, I don't, because I'm more than a run defender, just never been on the field. That's all I'm going to say on that. Just a backhanded compliment. He replied to that saying, this is not a knock on you. Talking to, I think, someone, I don't know if this was maybe Stu Jackson who wrote the story, I'm assuming, right, at Stu J Rams. He's an insider for the Rams, so I think he maybe wrote the story. He tags him in the tweet and says, this is not a knock on you, my guy, but you only talk about what it seems like the one and only thing that I'm good at, because that's all I've ever been allowed to do. So Bobby Brown voicing some frustrations with the playing time that he maybe got or did not get for the Rams. And then they kind of made him only be a run stuffer, and then he wasn't really the most consistent run stuffer at all times. Not to say it was on him, but the defense in general, right? Again, we weren't stopping the run all season long. So he's a little bit upset about that being his only kind of thing they allowed him to do. As in his entire career, he has 31 solo tackles, half a sack for his entire career, the last 4 seasons with the Rams. Apparently, it's the only thing they allow him to do is try to stuff the run, and he's never even got an opportunity to get sacks, as he only had half a sack in his career so far in his 4 years. So interesting to see him upset. Interesting to see him publicly upset. So we're not not the most happiest of stories, but hey, look, if Bobby Brown wants to be upset about the situation, he can verbalize his frustration. He said, someone replied saying, "Come back, Bobby Beast. Maybe make it known in training camp and let them put you on passing downs." Bobby Brown III says did that already. So he's very clearly upset with his role with the Rams. We'll have to wait and see if they're going to change that role this offseason. I think that's the only thing he could really do is go to training camp again. But it's really all he could really do right in this point. If in this position, if he's really not happy with what the defensive coordinators are doing for him, then he's gonna have to show more. But ultimately, it sounds like maybe he wants to move on from the Rams, as he's not really happy with his role. So we'll have to wait and see on what the details are on that. But not really great. Ultimately, though, I was already saying that we should probably move on and move in a different direction from not just Bobby Brown III, but in a different direction for the interior defensive line. Next to Kobe Turner, we kind of need someone who Actually, maybe he's more passionate about stuffing the run, and that's all they want to do is stuff the run. That's kind of a defensive tackle I think the Rams need right now for the future of that defensive line. Other than that, that's gonna do it for me. Real quick, trivia of the day. We'll talk about the last trivia of the day. Nobody guessed it. That's kind of messed up. Kind of sucks, but it's all good. The trivia of the day last episode was actually with Bill Belichick. Former Patriots head coach Bill Belichick was a 3-year football letterman at what college? For those who maybe didn't see it and you want to give your guess now, it's cool, but the answer was Wesleyan University. So shout out to Bill Belichick, 3-year letterman at Wesleyan University. For today's trivia of the day, you guys want to play along, you go ahead and give a guess in the comments below. I'll give you a shout out if you're right, or maybe even if you're wrong on the next episode. What Super Bowl winning quarterback played college at Northern Iowa? I'll give you a little bit of a hint too. That should be easy for Rams fans. What Super Bowl winning quarterback played college at Northern Iowa? Multiple choice options. Was it A, Brett Favre? Was it B, Kurt Warner? Was it C, Trent Diller? Or was it D, Brad Johnson? Give your comments down below. I'll give you a shout out on next episode, whether you're right, or maybe even if you get it wrong, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. That's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I'm out.